Okay, thank you for being here. Happy Thursday. Um, I wanted to check in on how homework two is going. Given that so far one person has submitted it. I just wanted to check in. How's it going? I see a thumbs up, thumbs up. Is it much too, well, this is the Goldilocks condition. Where do we see it in like too easy, too hard, just right? Yeah.
I think it's too hard for a homework assignment, given I think I spent more time on this one than lab. And I feel like in general, lab should be harder than homework. It's like how I picture it leaning.
In my mind, I see it reversed. I see the homework should be hard. So like for the first homework, it doesn't really make sense because we're just getting up to speed. But I think the homeworks should be a little bit harder than the labs. Because I give you more instruction on the labs.
So yeah, but that's a little hard.
Yeah.
At least I've only worked on the easy stuff and it took me a while. It wasn't necessarily like super hard. It just took a while to like think through it.
Yeah.
And errors and dealing with them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
I feel like I'm kind of in the same boat where I don't think it's that like too hard. I just think it's time consuming.
Yeah.
It isn't like that's obviously like anything you do is gonna be time consuming, but
Right.
it's harder this week because like me personally, I've had a lot of like big assignments leading up to midterms and like
Okay. Other thoughts? Yeah.
I feel like programming is supposed to be like hard and
Yeah.
I feel like it's a good thing, but like I don't think it's like I think it'll be okay. Like I think as the class we'll get through. Like it can be done. You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me it's just like you just have to like connect different things together. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The oh, so like the like hard part. So you know there's the easy, the hard.
Yeah.
The hard one. Seems a little like really difficult for like for where we're at. Like it's definitely the hardest thing that I've had to do in this class so far. I mean I'm still able to do it, but like I don't know about other people. And so I'd say like the easy one is like more like fair to tackle with. Like I felt like I got that one better. But like I'm doing the hard one, I'm doing tic-tac-toe. That one's like ballooning in size really quickly.
Yeah, I think tic-tac-toe in particular is a very difficult option. Yeah.
I felt like it, I felt the length of the assignment was too long. Having two. I think that it would be better if it was just the easy part or just the hard part, having both to do in the same assignment was too much.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Yeah.
I think that because like I feel like if you're able to find the easy one, I feel like that like leads into like it
Yeah.
just helps you.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is why I'm asking the question, because only one person has submitted it so far.
And I'm still not satisfied, and I'm still not happy about it.
Happy about what?
The one person who submitted it. I'm happy about it despite already submitting it.
Yeah. Any thoughts from this side of the room? It's hard. Okay, so like scanners in Java are hard. Getting input is hard. That's just the name of the game. And so I have to give you something to have you work on this. I'm willing to give an extension on this one, but not super long. So I'm willing to postpone it to like Tuesday. Would that be doable? Okay. Okay. So that also means that, so tomorrow I'm not really available because I have oodles and oodles of grading to do. But Monday I have office hours. And so that means I can be available tomorrow if you send me an email and schedule something. So now if I give you an extension, it's your responsibility if you're stuck on something to come talk to me about it. Or if you're really not sure how to work with this, then it's your job to rewatch the videos and try. So if you rewatch the videos and you're the goal would be for you to open up Eclipse at the same time and try and do it again, like from scratch, instead of just like looking at the code of like, oh, okay, I get that, I get that, I get that. What I find is that actually sitting down and writing code is the best way that I learn how to write code. So yeah, so I can give the extension until Tuesday, but that's the cutoff. That sound good? Okay. The goal is for it to be hard, right? Because Java is hard. And so I give you like, here's a reasonably simple problem. And then a difficult problem. That's the idea. If it makes you feel better, I used to give a really, really, really difficult homework assignment to start with. You remember this, and it has always been impossible. So count yourselves lucky. You're still gonna have that assignment. We've moved it later. Okay. Let me change that. That's not the homework I'm talking about. This is the homework I'm talking about. So instead of today, it'll be due Tuesday. Okay. Any questions before we proceed? Great. All right, let's review what we did. So last time we looked at the Magna Carta, wait, I have one more thing to say about scanners. Make sure you understand the Magna Carta examples. I think those are really important of just being able to read in and get some certain combination of the input. I think that may help you for the homework as well. So just make sure that you review the examples, and if you're not able to do them, come talk with me, or rewatch the videos, or look up a tutorial on YouTube. Okay, that's it for scanners, I promise.
What? What's the midterm?
Great question. I'm thinking okay, A, I have to decide. B, there's only two options in my mind. The option is the week before spring break or the week after spring break. And so it's what, week 6? So I will have a decision for you by next time of when the midterm is. So next Tuesday. Yeah. And in terms of what to expect for the midterm, it's no computers, probably no notes, just paper and pen or pencil. And I think a lot of like the packet type of questions of testing your understanding, your conceptual understanding of what's going on. So that's the goal. So I may ask you to write like, how would you approach this problem? And you could write some Java code, or you could write some pseudocode and come up with a solution. But I wouldn't be looking for like syntactically perfect code, because that's what the homeworks and labs are for. Any other questions about midterm? Yeah,
Can I make or can the class like make like, can we? Like, I just wanted to make a suggestion that I think it should be like before spring break.
okay.
for spring break.
Do we agree?
I agree.
Agree?
Cause it's like, I don't wanna come back from spring break and I'm. not
Right,
gonna-
yeah. That's fair. Okay, I will factor that into account. I reserve the right to schedule the midterm when I want, but I will take your opinion. Okay, now can we start reviewing? Any other questions? All right, let's go. So we started the new unit, object-oriented programming, which is different from scripting, what we've done so far, or just doing stuff. Our goal is to build something here. So we're going to build objects. We are the designers, and this is going to be split into subunits, at least 3 subunits. The first of which is just kind of what are we talking about, terminology, and how do we do something. And then the next where we look at how do classes connect to each other, and then other hard stuff later. We talked about the principles of object-oriented programming, which are like hiding implementation details, that's encapsulation, using generic types, that's abstraction, inheritance, which we'll spend the entire of the next subunit talking about, and then polymorphism, which is like overloading, and we'll also, along with abstraction, we'll look at polymorphism and abstraction in that 3rd subunit. Okay, I'm gonna skip through this because we talked about this last time. If you weren't here last time, there is a video. Okay, inheritance, polymorphism. Then we talked about definitions. Class being just a file that contains code for a reference type. So the files that we've written so far, like we wrote incel last time, that's a class. And it contains code for a reference type. That type is named intcell. An object is a concrete instance or occurrence of a class. So like, again, I didn't bring my mug, I ran out of tea in the previous class. But like it's the idea of a book versus this book, or a MacBook computer versus my MacBook computer, right? There's a difference because if I have a concrete MacBook, then I can do things with it. I can write lecture notes and run code versus with the idea of a MacBook, can't do anything with that. Reference type, we've talked about, this is an abstract data type, is just something that we use for data storage and processing. And the type is defined based on the code in the corresponding class. So last time we made an intcell class, and then when we use it in intcell demo, this variable I is of type intcell. So we've created a whole new type, and now we're using it. We've got members, like we've talked about before. We've got members, which include fields or declared variables. There's methods, which are behaviors or functions inside the class. And constructors are the way that we build the object. So in intcell, we've got a field right here. And then we've got methods, which are our getter and setter and toString. And down at the bottom, we also had a constructor, which says, I'm going to assume that you give me some int, and I'm going to say, okay, now that's the int. So these are the words that we use to apply to the code that we write. Okay, so we saw int cell. The idea is we've got a field of the integer. Just that we called it the int. You could call it whatever you want. We've got a get and set method. We've got a toString which prints the integer value, and then we've got a constructor. I will note I've got this thing pulled up here. That's because I'm rewriting lab 4, and I'm going to bring this into it. This panel is something called a UML diagram. I think it's Unified Markup Language. I'll check on that and I'll get back to you. But it's basically a way to visualize the class that we've written in, like, this is just a box. And we can say that we can tell a lot of things about this by the words that are here. So we've got this big green C, that just means it's a class. And here we've got a name, that means that's the name of the class. So the name of the class is intcell. Let me see if I can make this bigger. Nope, that's just. Maybe if I use the zoom function, that would be great. Okay. Then we've got sort of two sections here. The first one, so I will note that this is determined by the order in which we type things. So if I move toString up above set the int, then the diagram changes. So now toString is above set the int. So the order in which we have our code if we make changes, then that changes.
What are you even doing about it?
That's a great question. Let me get you an answer. We stopped at problem 3. We have not yet gotten to problem 4. Thank you for asking. So the first sort of component in this is the int. That's the field. So this is the field, and then we've got other things, which include the methods that we've got, which are get the int, set the int, toString, and we've also got the constructor. The difference between the methods and the constructors, what do you think from this diagram? So all the things are there. How do we tell which one's a method and which one's the constructor? Any ideas? Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking like, for example, the set the int, and then the parentheses that int, colon void, like, I'm kind of thinking that might be the method, because, like, I don't know, like, at least to me, like, the void makes it seem like that's the behavior. Am I?
Yeah, so the specific word that I would be looking for is return type.
Okay.
So the words after this colon, that's the return type. So like get the int is a method that's got a return type. Set the int is a method that's got a return type of void. toString is a method that has a return type of string. intcell doesn't have a return type. So the constructor does not have a return type. And so that's how we tell which one is which. Typically, I will say constructors typically live. I mean, it really depends on like your programming style. I typically like to put it first thing after I declare the fields. but again, it can, like, that's up to your preferences. Okay, I just wanted to mention, this is something called Plant UML, which I will, maybe next class, I'll come up with the tutorial on how to install it. It's something that I got from the marketplace, which I need to figure out how I did that because I installed it forever ago. And it's really easy where you just like click on a class and then it comes up with this diagram. Hooray. And so for your homework 3, you'll be required to do something with this. You can export it and I'll have you submit that along with your project. So yeah, so I'll come up with instructions for how to do that. If you're on VS Code, which he's not here today. If you're on VS Code, I'm not aware of a way you can do it. I know you can do it in Eclipse. So if whatever reason it's not working for you, you can always like pull out a piece of paper and draw it. And that's also acceptable. So I prefer this sort of thing, but if not, drawn is fine. Okay, back to business. So we've got our int cell class, but the problem here is, what if our int is secret, where we don't want anybody to be able to access it? First, let's prove to ourselves that we can in fact access it. So in my demo file, I've got all this code that's using the methods. But if I wanted to, I could say I dot the int with no parentheses after it, and I can access that variable directly. So I can print it, or I could print that +1. I can manipulate that variable. So just by saying my int cell variable name dot the int, I can access this field directly, which is fine if that's what I want. But if I want my int to be secret and private, that's bad, right? But I don't want anybody to be able to access it directly. The reason for that is because I didn't specify anything here. And we can see that in the diagram. I'll have a better tutorial for you. But you can see like one of the, wait, no, do I have it on my desktop? I do. So there's different icons for fields and methods in this language. And the shape corresponds to the visibility of it. And so the triangle means they say package private, which what we've been calling package visible. So any file inside this package can use this directly. Let's try. Okay, I have my break test. You don't have to write this down. I just want to prove it to you. I had that file just to test something. Okay, so if I try and, so I'm not in my U4.1 package, right? I'm in a separate package, a separate folder. And I want to see, can I do stuff with my int cell? So first it gives me an error, and then to fix it, I can import it from the other package. Great. The only question is, can I say j dot the int? Well, it auto-completed that for me. But if I type the int, then I get an error that says the field int cell dot the int is not visible. Well, that tells me I can access it in int cell demo, but not in break test, which lives in a different package. So package visible means only within U4.1, only within that folder, can something access this thing directly? Where is it? There it is. So the way that we fix this is visibility. So if I don't want anyone, like period, to be able to access it directly, then I have to make it private. So public means anyone can grab it directly. Private means no one outside of my own class can grab it directly. Nothing like what I currently have is package visible, which means things in this folder can access it, but not outside the folder. Then there's another option, protected, which we'll talk about when we get to inheritance. So for me, I would like, okay, I'm going to comment this out now. I would like my field to be private. And so once I do that, you'll notice the diagram changes from the red triangle or from the blue triangle to the red square. So that means it's private. No one else can access it. I can still access it directly within this class. So when we have like this dot the int, that's accessing it directly. But if I go back over here, now this is not allowed. And the way that we get around this is we use getter methods. So if we've got a getter method, then we can still access that data, just not directly. So I would have to change this to get the int instead of just the int. So yeah, so far we've done this activity. But so far class and method visibility have been used where we've had like a public class. We've also had like public methods. So we can add visibility to fields as well. Okay. So now I've got a challenge for you, and I think my idea was to split you guys up into groups and then you'd like work on it and brainstorm together. Yeah, so I'll explain what I'm looking for and then I'll pause recording and split you guys up. So how many of you have taken or are in a seminar course? Should be everybody. Great. So, you know how like in a seminar class, you're in one of 3 types. Wait, hold on. Yeah, one of 4 types actually. So there's seminar 1. Actually, let me just go to the website. That's not what. Okay, so right, so there's 4 seminar options, right? There's 1, 2, and 3, but there's also an option for transfer students. So there's 4 types of seminar classes possible. Yeah, I want you to get in groups and try and create classes. Create a class for seminar. And then in my mind, I also have a class for professor, but I want you to think about what other classes you could make and then try and make them. So I've given you a broad category, and your job is to try and make code that applies to that category. So we're creating classes. So let's create a class that works for the seminar application. So what sort of fields did you have for your seminar class? Yeah. Mhm.
Well, you said it might be different, but I said like professor name and seminal level.
So the idea of either we have the name of the class or we have, here's the level, yeah. Other ideas? You guys want to mention?
Yeah, we had like a couple of ideas, but, we were thinking about, let's try to think what's not on there right now. We were thinking about like a list of like assignments and then, he came up with like the more detailed idea of like, do you want to talk about it or I
A
can?
2D array where one dimension is one dimension is each of the students in the list, and the other dimension is each assignment.
So that kind of ties into how we would actually implement grades. Yeah. And you can do something like that as well with, I know you were talking about like attendance. Attendance. So like we could represent that also with a 2D array, where instead of assignments, it's just students versus did they attend that day? That's basically just like a spreadsheet. Any other ideas?
We made a Boolean list of days of the week, with 5 values. For the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and if it was true, that means the class like. The class, like, we have class that day, and if it's false, we don't have class that day, so like. Basically, it says like, oh, we meet on Mondays and Wednesdays, or Tuesdays and Fridays.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Any other ideas? Any methods you guys come up with? Beyond just like setters and getters? No? Okay, fair enough. All right, thank you. I'm gonna. I may have you, if you want to go back to your seats, you can, but I'm gonna have an activity later where we're gonna group up again. So what I'm gonna do is I've got a version of my notes that is probably gonna look different from yours, again, because we're the designers. So something you came up with is gonna be different from what I came up with. So I'll do my version. So if you have a seminar class here already, you can name it like seminar 2 if you want to follow along, or not, that's up to you. So what I had is I was going along with like the type of seminar, so like what's the level, where I assumed the type is maybe seminar 1, 2, or 3, or 4, which I assume is the transfer seminar. So the way that you number that could be different. Have a string for here's what we're reading today. And then I was like, okay, maybe I want to have a separate type for a professor. So this is going to give me an error. I'm going to leave that for now because I haven't defined what a professor is. So we'll pause on that for now and go finish it later. Okay, so now all I pretty much want is just the default methods at the moment. So I'm gonna do that with Eclipse. So And then okay, that's my notes on here's how you do it. This is also incidentally packet problem number 5. If you've got that. If not, then that's okay. So I want the constructors, so I right click and I go down to source and then down to generate constructor using fields. And all of those is fine, but maybe I just want, let's see, what do I have in my notes? I have a summoner object with the type and the professor. So maybe this is me at the beginning of the semester setting up the class where we don't, if it's before the semester starts, then we don't have a reading for today. So I've got, here's my seminar, and I've got some professor, which I still haven't defined. And so I can have more than one constructors here. So the constructors let me define things. And so maybe I want to define a constructor where I only care about the type and the professor. Maybe I want something from input, so taking some parameters. You'll notice that not all fields need to be the parameters. So like I don't have today's reading. And so the only thing is when I don't initialize that field, so like I don't touch today's reading at all, what it gets initialized to is implicitly it'll say this dot today's reading is null. So if I don't want that to happen, then I need to say something. So maybe I want to say this dot today's reading is not yet assigned. Or maybe I could say just empty string for there's no reading today. So this is doing something other than the default. This would be the default. That's what happens if I don't have this line here. Okay, let me do my getters and setters. I'm gonna go source, generate getters and setters, and just do it for all of them. Generate. And here they all are. Okay, there's 2 other types of constructors I want to show you. One of this, which is called the 0 parameter constructor. So that's just me saying public seminar, open close parentheses, and there's nothing else in there. And now I have to set up what this looks like initially. So I'm not given any input. I don't know what type it is. I don't know who the professor is. And so if I want anything other than the default is that primitives go to 0 or false. For references, the default is null. So that's what happens if I don't specify anything. So if I want something other than that, then I have to say something. So maybe the only thing that I care about here would be today's reading of not yet assigned. The professor I'm okay with initializing to null. The type I'm okay with initializing to 0 because it's not 1 through 4. Okay, so 2 constructors so far. One of them has some parameters. The other has no parameters. There's a third type that you will probably see that can be useful. Which is called a copy constructor. A copy constructor is, let's say I've got a seminar object, but somewhere over here I've got a seminar object that has all the information I need, and I just want to copy all that over to this one. I use a copy constructor for that. So I have a constructor for my class seminar, and as a parameter, I'm taking in another seminar object. I'm taking in a concrete instance of seminar, and I'm just going to grab all that stuff and apply it to me. So I'm going to say the type of seminar is whatever type S's seminar is. Today's reading is S's whatever today's reading is. And the professor is S's professor. Right? This is a copy constructor. I'm taking in a pre-existing object, and I'm just copying everything over. Just writing down whatever they've got, that's what I want. And so the way that we use something like this is if we assume that we've got some object X that's a type of seminar, then we can use this with maybe if I want a new object S, I can just give it X, the pre-existing one, and it'll copy that over, and now S has all the same things that X did. Okay, how's that feeling so far? So you probably made different decisions in what fields to have than I did, which is fine. It's multiple ways of approaching the problem. So for me, I said, maybe I just care about what type it is, who's the professor, what's today's reading. Okay, let's take a short detour and define the professor type. So I'm gonna hover over that error and just click create class, because it'll do that for me. And that's the project I want to go in. That's the package I want it to go in. So finish. And for my professor, that's not where the code is. Where's the code? So I don't know. Again, there's a lot of things you could do. You could also do this for student. So maybe the things that I want to keep track of for the professor are who are they, what's their name, what department are they with, and what seminar course are they assigned to. So those are 3 decisions that I made that you may have made a different decision. So from here, I'm just going to use Eclipse's boilerplate ones and just get simple constructors. So I'm going to go to source, generate constructors. I'm just going to select all of them. And then I'm going to get my getters and setters. Source, getters and setters for all 3. And just simple. So I define what the fields are, and then I just say, here's the getters and setters. Questions so far? Okay, so the seminar and professor classes, those are gonna give us just like a working example as we continue to learn about these concepts. I'm gonna go back to the slide. Does anybody want me to scroll anywhere else before I do that? Okay, I'm going back to the slide. Okay, so we've talked about this where constructors let us define objects. If we don't have any constructors, then primitive values get initialized to 0, or if they're a Boolean, then false. And reference variables get initialized to null. So it's just like, I don't know what you want, so I'm just gonna give you something, and it's not remotely what you're gonna need later. The constructor, as we've seen, has to be the same name as the class and cannot have a return type. So we've seen that. And we can have multiple constructors for different numbers of parameters or different types of parameters. So the answer to question 4 is yes. And the if so part, the answer is the parameters. Okay. Setters and getters, I feel like we've talked about a whole lot, where they just change the state of setters, change the state of the object. So you change some value associated with a field. Get, whereas just accesses it. It doesn't change it at all. Okay, so now I think for the rest of the class, or at least maybe until 5-10 minutes before the end, I want you to work in your groups on a combination lock. Where if you remember these from like high school, your locker or something, where this is a lock that you input, you twist the dial to input 3 different numbers. Yeah, they're really annoying. So it takes 3 numbers to open, and you have to input those in succession. So like if your code is 1, 2, 3, then you have to give it 1, 2, 3. You can't give it 2, 1, 3 or 3, 2, 1. That's not the code. The order of those numbers matter. Additionally, the combination is secret, where no one else should be able to see or modify the combination at all. You can assume that the combination gets, or I would like you to come up with the ComboLock class, and you should set the combination in the constructor. If there's no combination input, then it should be 0, 0, 0. It should have 3 main operations, one of which is open the lock, which to open you need the 3 numbers. Close the lock, which you don't need any information to close, and then change the combo, where this option only if you know the current one. That's the one that I assume in my example. But I know also some locks like have a key on the back, so maybe you can incorporate that into your code as well. So your task is to create a class that meets these specifications. So work in your groups, talk about it. And then for active learning today, that's what this is going to be. So if one person wants to type things and the other people are contributing and talking, that's fine. Just put in the assignment comments, like the submission comments. I worked with person X and person Y, and that'll be good in my book. Any clarifying questions before we get started?
Is it just have to make a class? We don't, we can just. Do we just have to submit the class file?
Yeah. Yeah, just the .java. All right. Any other clarifying questions? Okay, go for it. Make me a combination lock.